Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. And I return to you once more as the intelligible voice of the Vasectomites. And I have to be honest with you today that I'm feeling conflicted once again. I know I feel conflicted quite often. But I'm conflicted because, in particular today, while I know what to do and I have the power to do it, I simply lack the will. And I'm hesitant to do it. And I'll tell you in a moment why I'm hesitant to do it and why the it that I'm referring to do, or rather what the it is. I'm conflicted because I suffer from the burden of knowing and the load of true and honest acceptance. While on the other hand, I have to watch these knee benders living their lives blissfully illuminated by denial and levitating on an elevated cloud of hope and delusion. It's quite troubling because on the one hand, I feel as though I should do my best. I should be doing my best to try and save these knee benders, particularly from themselves. But on the other hand, I feel like maybe the best thing is just to let them bend that knee and suffer in their misery. Right? It's like I know that what you're going through and what you will be going through is utterly miserable. But on the other hand, there is this inevitability of it. Just knowing that no matter how far you go, how high you climb, or how deep the wealth of your knowledge and information is, you're simply going to succumb to your most basic instinct. You're going to see a counterpart. You're going to want to be intimate. Not once, not twice, as many times as you can. And ultimately, you're going to get her inseminated and pregnant. And eventually, you will bend that knee. Willingly or unwillingly, married or no, the courts will compel you to bend that knee. And I know this. There's an inevitability to it that is, quite frankly, too easy to predict and too easy to ignore. It's like watching a situation like, take this for example, where you have a sales expert that refuses to make additional calls, right? Refuses to make additional pitches out there because he's waiting for a potential client to call him back that he hasn't spoken to in like 4 or 5 hours, right? And it's like I know they won't call back. Everyone knows they won't call back, but there you are sitting back, relaxing, drinking coffee by the coffee machine, talking about how you have a sure thing, talking about how you have it in the bag. Or watching a student who failed the previous semester already and failed or even failed the previous year already, who's repeating a course, but he continues the same pattern that caused him failure. He continues to party all night. He continues to be intimate with counterparts all day. He never goes to lectures, and when he does go, he sleeps the whole way through. He doesn't take any notes, doesn't submit assignments, never does any of the readings, misses all of the tutorials, misses all of the tests leading up to the exam, and arrives on the first day during the exam and somehow expects to be able to pass the exam at a university level. This isn't high school stuff, right? This isn't grade 8 or grade 5, wherever you people come from. This is college level stuff at university with real professors. And there you are sleeping during his course and he's looking at you. And then you arrive on the first day, months later, on the first day of exams, talking about, can you help me out? You know what I mean? It's like these are the kinds of situations how everybody knows you're going to fail at this. You are going to fail. It's so predictable. It's you ask a child, you give a child these circumstances. He sleeps, he doesn't go to class, he parties, he's intimate with counterparts, he's up all night, sleeping all day. Is this person gonna pass the year? Every student will tell you no. Every child will tell you no. Everybody knows. Everybody knows except the knee bender himself. And this is why I'm conflicted. There's a part of me that wants to tell this knee bender to go and study and put in that work, to do the readings and participate in everything that he's missed, the assignments and whatnot. And there's a part of me that knows he just won't do it. He won't do it, not because he knows it's not good for him, right? Or he knows that it's gonna help him, or he knows that I'm gonna hurt him, or lying to him or something. He'll do it because you told him the right thing to do, and he is gonna willfully ignore it. I've seen people, man. You explain to them the situation that they're in. Like there was a guy who was retired. He had two homes, right? He had one home that he was renting out. It had like 4 bedrooms. It had a lounge and no, it had a lounge and 3 bedrooms, and a kitchen and other things, right? Two bathrooms, that kind of thing. And he was renting it out to one family at a time, and he just wasn't making any money out of it. And I said to him, hey man, you need to change the way you're managing this place because you're not gonna pull this off, right? And what he said was he was just gonna sell the place. And I told him that's not gonna work. You're gonna lose 35% of your income just on the taxes alone. And then there's the lawyer fees and all kinds of things that you can't afford, right? You're going to lose tremendously on the sale of this house. Not only that, you're probably going to be waiting like a year, 2 years, 3 years to sell it. You'll be sitting on the market paying these people to sell your house in a house that just doesn't sell. So I said to him, the other problem is that you have is that you don't have any other form of income. So you sell this house, not only are you going to lose a tremendous chunk just on the sale alone, in the process of the sale, it's going to take you forever. You're not going to recoup your money back, right? And also you won't have any income coming in for however long it is that you're still alive and you're retired. So I said to him, why don't you just rent out 1 bedroom in the whole house? Think about it, if a family of 4 or 5 or 6 people can live in that house for, $3,000 a month, surely you can get 4 or 5 people. So you could turn the 3 or the 4 bedrooms into bedrooms, and each person can have their own room, and you can turn one of the lounges into a bedroom, and you could rent that place out for $1,500 a bedroom. With 5 rooms, that's, I don't know how much that is, right? 3, 6, I don't know, something like $7,500. It's over double what he was making. And I told him whatever money that you are losing from rates and taxes and such, you'll be able to make it up because now you've just doubled your income. This was a simple, sensible thing. He wouldn't have to change anything. He'd just keep running his business the same way that he did. And the benefit of this is that when one tenant leaves, you're not like destitute with no income. You still have like four other tenants while you wait for this place to get filled up. You're still making more money than what you would. Even if two tenants leave, you're still making more money than what you would renting it out to one single family at a time. You know what he did? He sold his apartment. Sorry, he sold his house. He sold that house, and it was exactly what I thought. He lost 50% of the sale. Like he got a sale value, I think it was like 500,000. And he only got like 270,000 or something. He lost almost 50% of the sale of that house. And that 200,000 he ran right through that cash money. I mean, he went through it. He was so shell shocked from how much he lost that he decided to go spend and live big. What he wanted to show me was how wrong I was. Because now not only did he have cash money, he had extra money with which to splurge with. Of course, he was broke in 6 months and had to sell his second home. Now, what he then tried to do was he then tried to sell the home that he was living in, then use that money to buy an apartment or to buy two apartments so he could live in one and rent in the other. And of course, he couldn't do that. He couldn't afford even one apartment. I have no idea where that guy ended up. No idea where that guy ended up. But his house was gone and so was his livelihood just because he wouldn't adjust. He wanted to be spiteful. He wanted to show that he knew that something, that he was older, he was educated, he had all those things. And eventually, of course, he failed. I'll give you one more. I'll give you another example of the conflict that I have, right? And before I give you this one, I mean, this is why I have the conflict. On the one hand, people can give you a workable, viable solution. And at the time when I gave him that solution, his house was sitting empty. And there were people like saying, hey man, is this house for rent? And he was like, yeah, it's for rent. And he told them the price. And people were like, we can't afford that. He wanted like 3,500. And people were like, we really can't afford that. So ultimately, what happened was, he decided to sell, but I think he could have made more money by selling it, one at a time. He could have just told that guy, listen, I'll give you a room for 1,500. If you can't afford the whole place for 3, I'll give you a room for 1,500. Right? And I'll give you like a 2% discount if you find somebody else that wants to rent a room. That way I make my rent back and you get a place to stay and you get to stay with somebody that you trust. Like there's a million things that he could have done. But telling him this, you know what I mean? And then for him to know the answer and look at the situation and realize that you are correct and then still go the opposite direction and then crash and burn and then disappear out of shame or circumstance. Like this is the problem that I have. They say experience is the best teacher, and that's what you get with counterparts. You just have to give them the experience and let them live it out. I mean, there are these knee benders, who are as oblivious as ever, right? A knee bender who's completely oblivious, he will marry an unscrupulous counterpart with a deep, dark secret of which they never speak. The knee bender is going to believe that not only does a middle-aged counterpart over the ripe old age of 30, not only does he believe that she doesn't have a deep, dark secret of which she never speaks, he believes that he's man enough to love her out of whatever misery that deep dark secret has brought out of her, right? Or has been instilled in her. He thinks, right? He believes that by marrying her, right? He can love her out of her misery. He can love the trauma out of her, the trauma of her own decisions and her own regrets. Not only does he believe this, he believes that he'll be married forever. She'll never cheat on him. She doesn't have no debt, let alone student. What's this? Student debt, right? Yeah, that university debt, right? That the one that just piles on and piles on that nobody knows how to pay off, because the interest structure is so strange that you end up paying triple what you made, what you actually got, right? And people are thinking, oh, I'm paying almost double. No, 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 no. Why would somebody hit you with double when they can just as easily hit you with triple by moving a decimal point on a piece of paper? You people really didn't calculate the student debt thing. The student debt thing is for life, man. You're not going anywhere. They got you on an interest rate and an interest payback system that is going to keep you on the hook for life, right? Your kids are going to be paying off your student debt. And this Penny Bender thinks she doesn't have no student debt. And of course she does. A tremendous amount of it. And of course he's the one that's going to pay it off, right? He thinks he won't get divorced, right? After he pays off her debt, he thinks he won't get divorced, right? He thinks he's not going to be in no alimony. He doesn't believe he's ever going to pay 1 single cent of child support, right? He doesn't think he's ever going to pay his wife's lawyer bills. He's not going to have no division of assets or loss of pension, right? Or what do they call this when they take your future income? I forgot what it is. They just take your income before it even hits your bank account. Garnishing, that's the word I'm looking for. He doesn't think that they're gonna garnish his future income. You'll have to forgive me, I'm not very experienced in child support and dependency support. Nobody garnishes nothing here, right? So, these words, they don't just come readily to me. But yeah, he doesn't think they're gonna garnish nothing, you know? And yet here we are. We all know this is gonna happen. We all know that this is going to happen. We know they're going to garnish your salary. We know that they're going to put you on child support. We know that that counterpart is unscrupulous. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this, and I know it too. And yet here you are, hopeful. And when everybody tells you, hey man, you're going to be put on child support by this specific woman, you will stand up and fight and argue, even become violent and belligerent. Then what is the point of us informing you of information when we also know how you're going to react? We also know that you're going to become violent and belligerent, and you may very well hurt us just for you to end up in the same situation that we described, when in fact we offered you a viable solution. Not only did you choose the wrong option, you fought for it, man. And here I am feeling conflicted by these knee benders, watching them bending their knee, living their lives on their knee. And I think to myself, you know what? Why do I even care? You know what I mean? Why do I even care? Why do I even waste my time knowing that even if we informed you, all you'd want to do is bend that knee, right? I mean, think of the salesman. Of course, you're not going to make commission if your sales numbers are down. Everybody knows that. Not only that, we know there's going to be consequences and repercussions. So when you don't make commission, you're going to be upset. You're going to want to blame the company. You're going to want to be belligerent. You're going to not be able to pay your bills and live up to your child support, right? Because you don't want to make sales. Of course you're going to fail. Of course you are going to fail. And as for that unscrupulous counterpart, I can't even begin to tell you the misery that you will endure throughout the time that you have with her, from the moment that you dated her in college. Instead of going to class, you were being intimate and partying with this counterpart, and then now, you know, after dating for years and years and years, you are in divorce and child support court, talking about how the laws are not fair. How come I know this? How come everybody knows this except you knee benders? This is frustrating for people. And not only that, people will tell you, and you'll still ignore them. And not only ignore them, you'll fight them. It's like we have to ask the question: how could you believe that anything other than adverse cataclysm will befall you based on your actions and your behavior? You don't go to class, you don't study, you're wasting time, you're not making your sales, you're not pitching to new customers, you're not growing your base. You're getting married to people that everybody told you don't marry her. It's not like that, it's not what you think. Right? But then you have to take a real sober look at the reality of the actual knee bender. And you realize that, in fact, their entire lives is categorized by these types of decisions. Their entire lives is categorized by stories about how they almost made it and they almost did it and they almost got there, which means they weren't close at all. There was no almost. It was a delusion in their mind that made them believe that all these things were possible when they were never, ever, even an option. They have a long history of failure, dating back to really, quite frankly, when they were kids. They've just gone, like, the best time of their lives, these people, they'll tell you, is when they were a child, when they were under somebody else's care, when they were under somebody else's responsibility and somebody else's protection. And as soon as they started caring for themselves and looking after themselves and taking matters into their own hands, especially their finances, everything became an abject failure. It's a catastrophe, especially financially. I mean, you have no idea how much these people owe. Trillions. It says trillions economically that some of these people owe. They just keep borrowing on interest upon interest and upon interest. This is how they've been living their lives. They've been living a long history of failure, living the consequences of having made an entire life's worth of bad decisions at the worst possible times. At the worst possible times. They've missed every possible opportunity that they were ever given. They missed sports tryouts when they were talented at sports. They missed testing opportunities to go to university. If they did go to universities, they missed the exams, they missed the debates, they missed the quizzes, they missed the presentations. This is over and above missing regular classes. They missed the whole show. They weren't ever really there. Then they spent the free time that they had away from all the academic engagements that they were missing, and they spent that time not working, not seeking better opportunity, not growing themselves in a meaningful way. They spent that time being intimate with a counterpart. That's really what they did, right? And quite frankly, some of these counterparts that they missed important lectures for, some of these counterparts that they missed important phone calls for, some of these counterparts that they thought they were going to marry, they never saw them again. You missed the opportunity of a lifetime to be with a counterpart and pretend to be an entertainer. Just think about that. You could have lived the dream forever. But you spent it with quite frankly, an ex-girlfriend who's much like my own ex-girlfriends, one that you'll never see again. And then who do you blame? Right? Then you blame somebody else. They blame the lecturer, who, by the way, the lecturer never missed one single day in 10 years. They'll tell you he never missed one single day in 10 years. Right? They never missed one class. He was always on time. He was always prepared. He was always ready. He always had extra materials, extra examples, extra everything. What you find is a lot of lecturers don't even have time to finish all the material that they prepared. They over prepared. And you're going to say that guy is the problem? Hey man, that guy already got his PhD. He's not the one sleeping in the class, it's you. He's not the one with that unscrupulous counterpart, it's you. He's not up all night, it's you. You know? Or they'll blame the client, who as soon as you called him, you annoyed him, and then and then he said he'll call you later, and he never did. And then you called him back and he's like, oh, this guy again, and he hung up on you and he blocked your number. And he never ever called you back. Now you're stuck there thinking, oh my God, I thought this guy was a sure thing and now I'm not gonna make my commission for the month. Now you're panicking. Because you should have been on that phone dialing those numbers. But no. You thought you had a whale in the back pocket, an ace up the sleeve. And now you find out, as usual, Mr. Kneebender, you have nothing. And then you blame the counterpart, who not only told you that they had problems, but they showed you, right, that they had problems, that they weren't wife material. But you know what? You married them anyway. And now you're standing there wondering. This is the same thing. This is the same reason why, by the way, counterparts have more degrees, right? Because when you're acting a fool, the counterpart just goes to class. The counterpart goes to the makeup tutorials. The counterpart goes to the makeup exam. When you miss the whole show, they find a way. Or they get back on that student loan, and we'll talk about that student loan. Because now here you are with student loan debt, and you're a dropout, and she got student loan debt, but she graduated, and it's not the same thing. You didn't get nothing from your debt and your suffering, and she got something, which is better than nothing, right? Then of course you drop out or get kicked out of university, either for not attending, for not paying, or simply for failure, right? Or you lose your sales position, right? Or even worse than losing your sales position, you get demoted. So instead of being fired for being unproductive, they leave you where you are, or they demote you and then promote somebody else. And as predicted, you go through divorce and through the dark dimension, which is easy to predict, and now you're homeless, you're hurt, you're frustrated, you're broke, you feel like you've been robbed, you've been put through the fire of the dark dimension and divorce, right? And everybody knew it was going to happen. The same way that everybody knew that you're going to need a degree in the future, and you said, no, I don't need no degree. I'd rather sleep. What's it to me? It's nothing to me. I'm going to be rich and famous anyway. I'm going to be a this and I'm going to be a that, and you never became any of those things. But the counterpart, she went ahead. She went ahead and graduated, right? And then later she became a professional who's now too good for you, right? The only reason she's with you is, or even would want to be with you, is because, well, quite frankly, there's, nostalgia there, a feeling of familiarity. Maybe she doesn't want to raise that body count. What difference does it make to her now? You're a loser, right? If you dropped out of university and didn't become the professional you thought you were going to be, if you didn't become the star that you're going to be, what type of life do you think you're going to have? If you don't pull off those pipe dreams that you have and not come out of university with a degree, what kind of life do you think you're going to have? Because these counterparts are graduating. Man, they're getting their degrees. Huh? They are getting those degrees. And while the counterpart, she's now a professional, right? What happens is she will probably encounter another person, a professional. Perhaps it'll be the person you mentored, right? The person who you taught the ropes, and that person got promoted ahead of you into manager because you slipped and weren't making your sales, right? And even though you're older and more mature, right? Your numbers dropped. Your numbers dropped, and there's just no justifying paying you that extra commission, that extra salary. Now you gotta do extra time, overtime, even on your day off, because there's no justifying paying you that salary if you're not bringing home the results. And as for you, my young knee bender, who married the wrong woman, there she is now, you know, that unscrupulous counterpart that you thought, that you thought would love you forever. Now your wife is dating your son's friend, huh? Your son's best friend in your home, in your marital home, while a home that quite frankly you're still paying for, and you got 15 years left on that bond while you pay alimony. There she is with your son's friend, getting entangled. Hmm? Then, when you're living in that misery, you're going to sing the same old song. Oh, I don't need a degree. Why do I need a degree? Listen, when you registered for university and you went to college before you started acting a complete fool and like a complete clown, missing all your classes, you knew you needed that degree. You knew you needed that degree. Man, even the counterpart knows she needs that degree. And this is something that you can't fault the counterpart for. Man, they are getting those degrees, and today's study and today's edification is going to discuss all about that. And they're getting those degrees because they know, man, you can come out here in this world with no degree and you're going to be finished. But with a degree, you might get a chance. Even a bad degree is better than no degree. There are some jobs that will hire you just because you have a degree. And they won't care what degree you have, but just because you've demonstrated that capacity, they'll hire you. And the counterpart knows that. The counterpart knows that she will have opportunities to have opportunities, even if the first opportunity isn't good. With a little bit of experience and a degree, really, she can do anything. But you don't have no degree. You don't have no skills. You're a salesman now, but you're not making any sales. And then simultaneously, you are getting divorced. Like, this is a worst case scenario. You, through the dark dimension, divorce, alimony, child support, lawyer fees, no degree, and you're not killing it at work. You thought you were going to be a superstar, but now you're doing sales. And now you don't even want to do that because you think you're too good for sales, but you're not good enough to be a star. And then it's under these circumstances. Just think of these circumstances. You got no education, you got no money, you're not making sales, your wife is cheating on you, you're getting older, you're running out of time. And then what do you say? I don't need a degree. Man, even the counterpart knows she needs a degree. You know? You say I don't need a degree. Or you say, oh, I'm starting my own business, even though you have no sales experience and no education in that field. You are going to get crushed. For those of you that think you're going to start a business, look at the company that you work in now. The people that are paying you the salary to keep you alive. This is now your competition. Now just imagine you are going to create a product or have a system that all these people, your people that are your equals, your competitors now. Now you are still equal to those people, but now you're competing to them, with them, right? So you're on the same level with them and now you're competing with them. And it seems like, well, we're on the same level, you'll be fine. No. You are completely outmatched numerically. So even if you might have a better idea than they have, they can outwork you. They can, if there's a team of 10 people, They can split that team into two, 5-5, and have a 24-hour shift going. They can have a full on 24-hour shift going with just a 5-5 schedule. I'm telling you the truth. All you gotta do is put in that extra time, overtime, and you already got 20 hours of work for each team. That extra four is negligible because that's between midnight and 6 o'clock. It starts again at 6 o'clock. You can cover those hours, man. You can cover those hours. But you by yourself, you cannot. A corporation with thousands of people, they can strategize around you and just massacre you from the inside and you won't even know what's happening. And they won't even need to put the whole thing, the whole mechanism against you. They'll put a team of 3 people and say, take him out. And it won't take them very long because you got no business experience, right? And then what do? You go back into the romance wars. You start dating another counterpart who's 20 years younger than you. And you're dating that counterpart with no vasectomy. You didn't go freeze your sperm. You didn't get no vasectomy. You didn't follow the principles of this platform. How do you think this is going to work out? I think that history is going to repeat itself. I think you're going to find yourself back in child support, or married, divorced, paying alimony and child support and lawyer fees. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And counterparts have figured out that, you know what, there is a deficit of reliability when it comes to these knee benders. There is a deficit of reliability, and they've decided to put their faith in a degree, as have I. My professional faith has been put in a degree and an academic qualification over and above my own skills and my own ability to perform and to produce. So I still have the same capacity to work and put it together as you do, but I'm doing it with a degree also. I believe that I have an advantage, whereas you have the disadvantage of being a dropout with student debt and no degree, and you're still trying to put it together. But yeah, you're going to be telling everyone you don't need a degree. You're wrong. You're completely wrong. You're wrong about this, as you've been wrong about not making sales, as you've been wrong about school, as you were wrong about dropping out and the reasons why you dropped out. You were wrong about being a salesman, and you were wrong about marrying that counterpart. And you were wrong about not needing a degree. And if you say you don't need a degree, it's further indication of just how wrong you are. You don't even know how wrong you are. That's how wrong you are. You are oblivious to your own ignorance. But all the while you paid off the counterpart's student loan debt. Her student debt is paid off. Isn't that ironic? Because she can pile on this tremendous amount of student loan debt and just marry out of it. She'll just find another knee bender other than you because you dropped out. You're not in the game anymore. She's going to find a knee bender with a degree and a qualification and a skill and make him pay. This is part of the reason why these counterparts can get all these degrees. They'll just take the loan and just stack up that debt, just pile on that debt, piles after piles after piles, just spending that money recklessly, taking 6 years to do a 4-year degree, and then making you pay it. After you did, if you do get your degree, and if you don't, you're going to be paying off some other type of debt for another counterpart anyway. And these are the things that I know. I'm conflicted with dealing with the ignorance of these knee benders because they're going to be just making all the wrong decisions, and you can see them from like when they're young, man. You look at a knee bender as young as 13 and 14. Like, there are knee benders that they have been given every opportunity to thrive since they were prepubescent, and they have squandered those opportunities day after day, gleefully, with pride and spitefulness, just for them to turn around and say child support isn't fair. You know, there are moments when I can see a knee bender go and ruin his life. And I ruin my own reputation. I take the risk of telling him, hey man, don't be a fool, don't get married. And I risk my own reputation, and I also risk the hatred of that knee bender saying, oh, the ancient one told me not to settle down, but look how happy I am in my marriage because we've only been married for 3 weeks. It's the best 3 weeks of my life. I mean, what do you say to someone like that? What do you say to someone like that? And if you tell him any different, he's not only going to hate you, he's going to ruin your reputation and destroy your life. And he may even attack you physically. Aren't you better off just making him bend that knee and let experience deal with him? This is how I feel. I feel like I'm just better off letting you sleep in the class, letting you not make your sales, and just letting you get married to that counterpart and just wait and see what happens. And everybody knows what happens. The curiosity for me isn't knowing what happens. It's seeing what you're gonna do about it. Man, when you drop out of university, I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what you think you're gonna do next. But whatever job you're gonna do, man, you better be very good at phone calls. You're gonna need that phone voice on lock 24 hours a day because you're gonna be making a lot of sales calls, my friend. A lot of sales calls because you not only have to pay off your debt, you have to pay off the counterpart student loan debt too. You know, and they can amass a fortune in student loan debt with just the worst type of you know interest rate because they know your knee benders are going to pay it off. Eventually there's a knee bender who's dumb enough to believe, I beg your pardon, incompetent enough to believe that they could accomplish this and make it worthwhile. That's the worst part of it for me. It's not just that you think you can pull it off, you think you can make it worthwhile. It's frustrating dealing with knee benders. But the conflicting part is that, you know what, some of these knee benders actually think they're doing the right thing. But the problem is if you correct them, then they hurt you. And if you leave them, well, you have to stand it. There's a guilt with it. Just knowing that you could have done something to help someone, but you didn't. You just stood there and watched them. It's like watching somebody who willingly walks off the ledge of a building. And you're sort of watching him thinking he's not going to walk all the way through, but he's waiting there for you to tell him, no, come back. So that he can turn around and make a joke out of it and laugh and say, yeah, you thought I was really going to do it. There, I got you. But then one day you don't say anything and he goes all the way up to the ledge and a gust of wind takes him. And you'll be standing there thinking, I cannot believe that just happened. Like, I cannot believe you went and married that counterpart. Or you slept your way through your degree. You slept away your degree. Just think about that. You gave away a degree in exchange for an uncomfortable nap. You know how uncomfortable lecture rooms are. You know how uncomfortable those tutorials rooms are. There's no way you can sleep in there comfortably, and you slept in there every day. You only have yourself to blame for your circumstances. It's hard to feel sorry for these knee benders. It really is. And I'm at the point where, you know what? I might just add to your misery. Why? Why not just add to your misery? When you know things are just going to be bad, just tell him, you know what? In the middle of his divorce case, just tell him, get a new lawyer. Just get a different lawyer. This lawyer is not a good lawyer. Get a different lawyer and just see what this person does. I mean, you're foolish enough to get married. You might be fool enough to get a new lawyer in the middle of a divorce who doesn't know nothing about your case. And it'll probably be a counterpart with a degree. Because the lawyers of the future are absolutely going to be counterparts with degrees because you guys don't seem to be thinking you need a degree. You're not going to university, and when you do go, you mess it up. I think today's edification and article is pretty straightforward. But it's going to be very enlightening information that we're going to dive into. It says U.S. women are outpacing men in college completion, including in every major racial ethnic group. This is across the board. This was written by Kylie Hurst. It was published on the 18th of November 2024, and it comes from the Pew Research Organization, and their website is www.pewresearch.org. And of course, as usual, there is the link to the actual article where you can find it if you feel like reading it yourself, but we will go read through it together. It's really not that much of a challenging read, but it is very insightful and meaningful. It begins with the facts that we already know. Women between the ages of 25 and 34 continue to be more likely than men in the same age group to have a bachelor's degree, which means women have more degrees, right? So it answers that question. And uni benders are going to end up paying for them because they're getting these degrees on debt. That's why they're like, well, I'll just get a degree, pile on the debt, and make a knee bender pay for it. It's simple. I would. I mean, if I had the option, I don't know why I would take that. Let me put it to you into perspective. I myself, who speaks oh so much about my degree, which I love and use in every professional circumstance, every single professional circumstance, it works. I didn't pay not a dime for my degree, not a single cent. I made my parents do it. Well, didn't make them do it. But in hindsight, if I had to go back and pay that money myself or make my parents do it, I'd still make them do it. I wouldn't pay for it. Absolutely not. Now, you might say, well, that's selfish and blah, blah, blah. But think about it like this. You're 18 years old. Where are you going to get 100 grand a year? Something to that effect to pay for the school and maintaining your life. 4 years. That's almost half a decade, man. That could be $500,000. Could be like $200,000 to $300,000 just to get this thing. Man, where are you supposed to get that money? You only have high school experience. Where are you supposed to get that money? You're not going to pull that off unless you take on a tremendous debt. And then how are you going to pay that off? You're not going to pull that off either unless you get someone to pay off that debt for you. But even I, who speak so highly of their own academic prowess and their own academic qualifications, I didn't pay for it. That stuff is expensive, man. It's expensive. Don't get me wrong. To me, it's been my greatest investment. I paid nothing of it and I've been making a killing from it. That's how investments work, right? Minimum input, maximum output. But as for the people that paid it, I don't envy them. I don't envy them at all. And I also don't envy you knee benders paying for that degree, for that counterpart. Like, as a person who has one and understands how much it takes and how much it costs, that's not something that I would be willing to pay for a stranger. But then again, I'm not a knee bender. The gender gap is in bachelor's degrees. Completion appears in every major racial or ethnic group through the size of the gap. Though the size of the gap, I beg your pardon, it varies widely. This is the real gender gap. They say there's a gender pay gap, but what they're saying is there's a gender overtime gap. So the men are doing that overtime, extra time, every time trying to make that money, right? And the counterparts, they just want to do their 8 hours and make enough out of that 8 hours that they don't have to work any overtime. And the best way for them to do it is through academic qualifications. Get a degree that guarantees you a promotion so you get more money and you don't have to do any extra work. It makes perfect sense. It's what I did. It's what I did. So I don't have to start at the ground level. And if I do start at the ground level, it's only so they can explain to me how the organization works, right? And then I can, in a year or two, find my way up, right? You're just paying those dues. But once you've paid those dues, it's all good from then on. And the counterparts know this. But you knee benders, you're going to pay dues for the rest of your life. The gender gap is happening right in front of you. And it's not happening in the bank, it's happening in the lecture rooms. the lecture rooms where you are not. In 1995, young men and women were equally likely to hold a bachelor's degree, 25% each. So in 1995, almost 30 years ago, it was equal, 30 years ago. Since then, there has been a growing gap between men and women in college completion. Today, 47% of US women aged 25 to 30 have a bachelor's degrees compared to 37% of men. So it's 47% of women compared to 37% of men. This is a 10% difference. This is a massive, massive gap. You know, when I read this, it reminds me of that video that I did on female contraception, when the female's contraception is like light years away. I mean, they are in the space age with female contraception. But with men, like, you're still pretty much in the stone ages. Like, they have all kinds of contraception, from oils to pills to injections to operations, and men just have a piece of plastic in the form of a condom. And now here we see another gap where women are going for what's really important. Like, in the business sense, women are really doing the business academically. But socially, they might be struggling. So they're overspending socially and under earning on this side just because they don't want to do an extra hour of overtime. Like, if a woman did an extra hour of overtime, she'd be able to pull all this off. But they don't want to put in that extra hour, so the men are going to do it and make that money. But even then, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have a woman as your manager. Based on these statistics, it tells you that most of management is going to go to people with degrees, and those people are going to be largely women. It is inevitable. The numbers are right there. It's not even going to be a matter of, oh, let's choose the men and the women. The first thing they're going to say is, do you have a degree? And if you're not, you're going to be disqualified. And eventually, they're going to say, does she have a degree? And then it's like, yes, she does. And she moves on to the next step. She gets the phone call to come in for the interview. She gets the email to come in for the interview. Not you. Not you. And there's a 10% chance, there's a 10% higher chance currently that that's going to happen. 10% is not a small difference. That's not a small difference, right? So it's really falling apart for men academically, right? And which means that inevitably it's going to fall apart for men economically, because you're going to now have to work 5 extra hours, four to five extra hours just to equal a counterpart's earning. And all because she went and got that degree and leapfrogged you. You know, the share of young women with bachelor's degree has increased by 22 percentage points from 1995, from 25% to 47%. Over the same period, men have a smaller increase of just 12%, from 25% to 27%. Now just look at those numbers. They went from 25% to 47%, 22% increase. That is massive. That is a huge leap. If you had a 22% increase in your salary right now, you would move to a completely new neighborhood. That's what 22% means. That's a huge difference. That covers up all of your shortfalls and leaves you open to have room to make mistakes. I think that men have underestimated this issue of a degree and the importance of it, the same way that men have underestimated freezing your sperm and getting vasectomy, and if they haven't, I know they will. The same way they've underestimated child support, the same way they underestimated alimony, the same way they underestimated divorce. And here are the statistics telling you. And here I am knowing that this is going to lead to a male calamity. Not for me, I already got my degree. It's the same thing, like, they're going to encounter somebody who's got a degree and they have to deal with them as an equal. And then it's a matter of who's going to put in that extra work. So I'm going to be earning the same as them. and putting in that extra time overtime every time. So I'll have that financial advantage even on an equal footing. You're not even on an equal footing. You're at a deficit because you dropped out and you got dead. At least she stuck it through. When you left, she just continued her classes. When you dropped out, she just continued her classes. And then she graduated, and now she's looking for what they call a high man of value or a man of high value. And she may very well find one. She may very well find one. Somebody who says, you know what, I want a woman with a college degree. Right? And I was one of those people. Many of my counterparts had college degrees. Really, really, I just didn't date no woman with no college degree. I'm being dead serious. I never dated a woman with no college degree, except when I myself didn't have a college degree. Then I was a student and I dated other students. But it was always about, if you can get into the institution, you can get the degree. And if you get the degree, we can carry on, we can date. And even as a professional, I only dated people with college degrees. And it's very simply, I didn't want to get somebody inseminated and pregnant who would not be able to pull off this 10% difference in earning in the future. So it's really a matter of, if I do get her inseminated and whatever happens, even if we are apart, I know that the kid will be fine. The counterpart will still be able to earn above average or at least above most knee benders, right? She might need a man, but she won't need a man. She might want a man, but she won't need a man. Do you know what I mean? And if she's got my kid and, she's dating a loser and she wants to leave the loser, she at least be able to do that financially. Emotionally, that's a whole nother thing, A 2021 Pew Research Center survey asked Americans without a bachelor's degree why they chose not to seek one and found some gender differences in responses. Why they chose not to seek one? I'm going to tell you something. Nobody chooses not to seek a degree. If you ask people, most people, what they want to do in high school age, they will tell you something that has to do with a degree. I want to be a qualification. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be I don't know, finance professional. I want to be a chef. I want to be a something that requires training and education to do at a very high level. But most people didn't pull it off. They either didn't get accepted because their high school grades were so low, they messed around even till the very last end. They thought they were going to be 18 till they died, and they turned 19, and that whole dream crashed. In less than 365 days, that 18 till I die thing didn't go nowhere. Now, you're stuck with no options except to go get a sales job. Right? So, I mean, it's really, really that bad, But the other option is, or the other situation is, they went in and they dropped out. And then they got a sales job. Or they stayed in, pulled it off, and then started giving people a sales job. This is the difference, right? A person with no degree gets a sales job. A person with a degree decides whether you get that sales job or not. And yeah, it's going to be a counterpart. Because they're not going to be sitting managing a sales team. No. They're going straight to HR where they can judge you for your sins. Or they're going to spend all day judging you, just snooping and gossiping with a degree all about you. And then when you get fired, they'll just gossip some more. And you did this to yourself. You should have just stayed in school instead of trying to be a gangster. You know these people that call themselves gangsters? I'm a gangster. You dropped out of university. You thought you were going to be an electrical engineer. You thought you were going to be, I don't know what kind of engineers they got. Civil engineer. Chemical engineer. And now here you are, a security guard at a chemical plant. Huh? Should have just stayed in the call center. It says, and found some gender differences in the responses, right? Yes. For example, men without bachelor's degrees were more likely than women to say that they just didn't want to get one. I told you. In turn, women without a bachelor's degrees were more likely than men to say they couldn't afford a 4-year degree. And that's the truth. Right? The men will just say, nah, I don't want one. I don't need one. It's always the men talking about, I don't need a degree. Why do I need a degree? And the counterparts will just say, you know what? I just couldn't pull it off. I just couldn't pull it off. It all comes down to I couldn't afford it because they got those marks in high school. Counterparts always get those marks, right? They got those marks in high school because they were very competitive academically. And then they so yeah, counterparts want that degree. They really want that degree, and they're very competitive about their degree, and they're very proud of it too. And they'll tell you very quickly what it is that they do and what profession they have and so forth, right? Because it really matters. In my opinion, it really matters. But they'll be quick to say, "Hey, listen, I didn't get mine because." I just wasn't able to afford it. It all came down to money. My parents ran out of money. I ran out of money. I couldn't get a loan. But knee benders, they'll tell you they just didn't want one. And it's not true. It is absolutely not true. Everybody wants a degree, or at least wanted one at some point, or at least wanted to do something that requires a degree. I wanted to be a businessman. I want to be a stockbroker. I want to be this and that. You didn't study economics at all. You don't understand supply and demand. You don't understand currency exchange. You think you're going to just invest your money, you're going to buy something, give money to other people, and then for the rest of your life, they'll just give you money back. You think you're going to pay into a pension fund and that pension fund is going to keep you alive for the rest of your life. You're going to find out you're going to pay thousands into a pension fund that's only going to pay you $50 a month. That is going to blow you out. Pension funds, bad idea, man. It's just that uni benders got no choice. You're not going to save $1 million before you retire. I don't mean make $1 million. I mean save $1 million. You're not going to save that and have $1 million that belongs to you as you retire. So your best plan is to invest in a pension fund, hoping that it's will at least give you $500, $1,000 a month. And obviously it's not. It's only going to give you $50. It's really not going to work for you, man. You guys need a degree. You need skills. You need qualifications. You need expertise. You need something to speak on your behalf when you are not in the room. And that's not going to be your friend who you think you know in HR. It's going to be your degrees and your qualifications. Imagine coming up and vouching for someone and they say, oh, Ancient One, yeah, he's a really good guy, he's a hard worker, he's trustworthy, and he's a smart guy too. Oh, yeah, does he have a degree? No. Oh, really? Man, why are you picking up somebody who doesn't have a degree? Because you're just setting yourself up. You're just setting yourself to prove to people. You're setting yourself up to prove to people that you have bad judgment, that you can make a bad call for a bad decision. You're going to recommend somebody who doesn't have a degree, who's not even on your level? Nah, man, don't do that. Don't do that. It becomes difficult. That's why women with degrees find it very difficult to date men without degrees. Because now you have to justify this relationship. And people are going to be like, you're so hot and you got a degree. Why are you dating a guy without a degree? Right? And they'll give all kinds of reasons. Men with degrees, they're this, men with degrees are that. Men with degrees have options. That's what they don't tell you. We have options. We had options at university. Do you know how many women are on a university campus? You see these entertainers coming on campus and the girls, they think, oh man, the girls are going wild for me. Let me tell you something, my friend. There's a guy who wears flip-flops to school every single day. Shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. And all he does is tell that woman jokes. 8 hours a day. You think you're going to come in one time, charm her, and walk away and take her? Maybe you might. Maybe you might. But now you're competing with a guy who's gonna see her all day, every day, in the library, in the student store, at the gym, at the pool, at the dormitory, in the lecture room for hours and hours at a time. They're bored together. Between classes, you can have a class at like 9 o'clock in the morning and not have another one until 12. And between those hours, they are just doing nothing but chilling. You have no idea the advantage that men have at university. You have no, in terms of dating, like, I don't care what you say about your dating life. You didn't go to university, you didn't date nothing. You have not been dating. Like when people come out of university and they look at how much intimacy people are having outside of university, it is shocking how little it is. Like university, it is going on 24 hours a day. So I'm gonna come out of university and have some knee bender telling me about dating, about how he picks up girls. Man, you are kidding me. You are kidding me. Do you know how many 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old women are at university? It's nothing but them. And if you are not on the campus, you will not understand. You will see these girls on a Friday night, one time, once a week, once every 2 weeks. There's a guy with her 24 hours a day running game, knowing everything she knows, knowing everything about her, knowing everything about everybody she knows. And you're going to come out with your fancy car and think you're going to do something. No way. Man, you guys just really don't understand the dynamic of university, right? And then you come out and you're like, these guys are nerds, they don't get girls. Man, we're tired. We're tired. We are tired. We are tired. We are tired. You've been doing this 4 years. 4 years, and every semester it's a new girl, it's a new girl, it's a new girl, it's a new group of girls, it's a new group of girls. And it's like, you know what? Let me just get my degree and get out of here. This is why counterparts fail, by the way. Because knee benders. This is why knee benders fail, because you are flooded by an ocean of counterparts as far and as wide as the eye can see. And you see them under every single possible circumstances. Sober, drunk, inebriated, under the influence of illicit substances. You see them in their worst way, in their best way, in their swim way, in every kind of way, and sometimes you see them with no ways at all. Years of this. Years. Half a decade of this. Half a decade, and then you meet her in the office talking about she's new. Oh my God. Talking about, yeah, well, I've been an entertainer for years. Even as an entertainer, I assure you, you cannot compete with a 21-year-old. If the guy is the man on campus, forget about it. Forget about it. You're going to meet some girl 24 years old and say, oh, well, she's got a university degree. She's a good girl. No, sir. No, sir. Not a university girl. And I know you're saying, well, Ancient One, how come you're saying you're only dating university women? Because they're trustworthy, blah, blah, blah. No, because I know what I'm getting. Because I know what I'm getting, I've got no delusions about it. And also, she's got the same earning potential as me. You know what I mean? We go to alimony court, it's a 50-50 split. We go to child support, it's a 50-50 split. Assets, retirement, it's split right down the middle. And it's not split my way or hers. We're pretty much just walking away. There's no way I would date a woman with no vasectomy who had no degree and I had a degree, who had no earning capacity, but I had earning capacity. Nah, man, you're just setting yourself up. But now that I have the vasectomy, I have no such limitations. I have no limitations. None. Her academic qualifications or earning income, her capacity to make a living and support a child and a family mean absolutely nothing to me. Nothing to me. You know, I'm just I'm just sad I didn't have a vasectomy in university. Man, I could have really used that vasectomy back then. I could have used that vasectomy. Gender gaps in college completion by race and ethnicity. Members of European ancestry, African ancestry, South American ancestry, Asian ancestry, or should I say, I'm going to say South American ancestry and Asian ancestry women. I'm not going down the whole race thing. I'm not doing the color rainbow. I'm not doing that, right? You can separate people according to their colors. I will separate them according to geographical locations, right? But you still know what I'm talking about. So these people from ancestries of different continental backgrounds between the ages of 25 and 30 are all more likely than their male counterparts. You see that? There you go, counterparts. I told you they were counterparts. I didn't make this up. Don't call me crazy. They're telling you, you got the male counterparts, which is the knee benders. You got the female counterparts, which is the counterparts. But anyway, they are counter to your parts. Let's continue. The male counterparts to have a bachelor's degree, but some groups have made more gains over time than others. So, according to this racial background here, this I would say ancestral background information, some people, based on their ethnicities, the gap is wider in education between the male and the female. So the average is 10%, but for some it's higher than 10%. Fascinating stuff. European, African, and South American ancestral women have outpaced, I'm going to say counterparts. These are counterparts. They have outpaced men in college completion in recent decades. For example, in 1995, young women of European descent and men were equally likely to have a bachelor's degree, 29% each. The gap has increased to 10 points today, 52% for women and only 42% for men. Very interesting. Very interesting. But they have a much higher rate of education. 52% of women of European descent have a college degree. That's very impressive. That is very, very impressive. Those numbers are staggering. Or at least those that are eligible, at least between this age, 25 and 34, right? That is very impressive. That is very, very impressive. Similarly, in 1995, young women of African descent, as well as men, were about equally likely to have a bachelor's degree, 14% and 16%. Also staggering insight. So it indicates here that men and women of European descent obviously have higher education levels, right? Not only levels, but also completions consistently throughout. By triple? It's triple, 16%, 45%, 15%, 45%. That's just around triple. But for the counterparts, for the women, it's much, much higher. For men, it's triple. For counterparts, it's almost four times as much. Almost four times as much based on ethnicity. Man, that's not even close. That is not even close. I mean, this is out of every 100. I mean, out of every five, it's one. Out of every four, it's one. Less than one, nah, that's a problem. Today, women of African descent are 12 points. 12 points. So, with the Europeans of European ancestry and African ancestry, the difference is wider. Wow, this is very interesting. 12 points more likely than men of African ancestry to have one, 38% for women and 26% for men. There is also a growing gender gap between men and women of South American descent in college completion in 1995. Similar shares of men and women of South American descent had a bachelor's degree, 10% versus 9%. Oh, that's even lower on the other side. Only 10%. By the way, these people all constitute about 7 or 8% of the population of the country. So it's only less than 10% of the country of the United States has a degree, which is a tremendous amount because, like, across Asia and Africa, it's close to like 2%. 2%. So at 10%, I mean, that is like a lot. That is a lot. So of these numbers, you can break them down specifically. 52% will be women of European descent, or at least 52% of the women that are there will be of European descent, of those that are, eligible. This is fascinating stuff. Like, people are not going to college. Guys, go to university and get a degree. Stop playing around. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. Don't tell me you don't need a degree, you can rely on AI. The man who made AI had a degree, man. Huh? How do you think he made the AI? Oh, man, come on, man. This is not even worth debating. And I don't want to hear anyone talk badly about degrees. Because you're losing socially, you're losing economically, you're losing every way possible, and you just can't pinpoint where the difference is. How come these counterparts keep acting? How come they keep rising up? How come they keep doing this? Because they're more qualified than you. It starts here. In high school, there's no difference. After university, at 25, there's a big difference. So the difference happens somewhere between 18 and 25. Where's that difference happening? It's happening at university. It's happening right here. And men are still talking, like, counterparts will let you guys say your degree means nothing. And they'll keep telling you, well, I have a degree. And you'll say your degree means nothing. You're lying. You are lying. That degree means a lot. And these numbers are demonstrating how much it actually means. Right? But today, the gap between groups is 9 points, 31% and 22%. So the pattern is different for Asian adults, with women and men making comparable gains over the last few years. In 1995, 42% of young Asian women and men had a bachelor's degree. Today, it's 77%. 77%. The Asian population is smoking all of the other groups. This is not a joke. 77% of young Asian women have one, as do 71% of young Asian men. Now, are you telling me that you're smarter than the Asian graduate? Are you going to sit here and tell me while the Asians are getting degrees at 77% and becoming some of the richest people in the world very, very quickly, creating some of the technology that we need to survive, and you know how they're killing it economically, especially in the United States? You know they're all about family, and it's all about keeping it in the family. So you know they're killing it. So for you to be able to stand there and say a degree is not important, man, it's a lie. Look at how the Asian population is doing it, people of Asian descent. And then tell me that it hasn't made a difference to them or for them, because it's made a tremendous difference for them. And if it can make a difference for that demographic of people, it's absolutely going to make a difference in terms of how you deal with these counterparts. Because you're going to meet a counterpart who is very qualified, and they are not going to be merciful with their qualifications. You're not going to have no qualifications. That's a disqualification. Not having any qualifications is in fact a disqualification, and people will use that to disqualify you. And of that, I can absolutely assure you. So my advice is, along with freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy, is gonna be, you gotta get a degree. You can see the counterparts are doing it, and there's a reason why they're doing it, and it's because it works. It's valuable, it's precious, it's worth it, and it works. And if you're not gonna get one, a counterpart will. And it's gonna show up later in your life. Like, you know how you're saying they're gonna hit the wall and whatnot. You're gonna hit a financial wall eventually. Because there's gonna come a point where they gotta choose someone with experience and no degree or experience with a degree, and they're going with the degree every time. I can assure you, I would. I would every single time. It's really, even if you're like with shareholders and customers and whatever, even if somebody's brilliant, if you add the fact that they have a degree to their brilliance, it makes a difference. You could be brilliant and then somebody's like, yeah, he's brilliant, he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't have a degree. And that's a disqualifier. It's always going to be disappointing to people to know that somebody doesn't have a degree. I don't care what you think it is. I don't care what you think the situation is. I don't care if you think it's right or it's wrong. It's true. It's true. You have to understand that it's true. The stereotypes are true, man. Stereotypes are true and they will remain true. And it's always going to be a case like, hey, get a degree. Just get that degree. Get that degree and get that vasectomy. Now, I'm speaking as somebody who already has a degree, and you might be saying, well, it's easy for you to get it done. I'm going to tell you, don't be daft. There's no such thing as an easy degree. The easiness comes after the degree. So, you know what I mean? You can't be telling me afterwards that it's easy. No one was telling me it was easy before. And if you're thinking that, this is why people with degrees are so proud. Because we know how close we got to not actually getting it. Somebody could have removed funding. Somebody could have removed funding. Somebody could have just decided, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And that's it. No more degree. And you're not going to be able to get that money to bring this together. So, along with freezing your sperm and get a vasectomy, I'm going to suggest that you go get yourself a degree if you can get one as a man. And read these statistics again and try and see and decide what they mean for you. And you're probably going to find out they mean a lot. They mean a lot. But mostly, they probably mean your end and your catastrophe. Ultimate pandemonium. This is the end of the video. I'd like to thank you again for your time and your attention and your patience. I really appreciate it. Please, if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and support the channel. Also, please share this video with somebody who doesn't think they need a degree, because they absolutely do. Or somebody who's doing their degree and think that they should drop out and stop, or wasting their time with a counterpart. Please tell them not to waste their time. Please tell them what the end results are going to be. It's going to be a calamity. Also, I'd like you to please leave a comment to remain part of the conversation, and I'll respond to as many comments as I possibly can. I'm the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, and I'm wishing you a wonderful, wonderful day. And before I let you go, let me say it one more time. Freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Yeah, I'm very predictable.